looking for. And welcome back to season 4 of Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast show of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me in studio is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
Yeah.
And still working from the home studio so we can actually get this streaming thing going and working with the technologies is Janelle Wheeler.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
All right, guys. So now we are all on the other side. It has been a week since the release of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So it is time to look back on the entirety of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and tell you, how do we see things? So in an effort to save time, we're not going to rank every project because there's been more Marvel TV and movies than we could throw a stick at in Phase 4. So we had everybody pick their top 5, and we are going to get into that. But first, we have some news to get through, which I didn't expect. I thought this was going to be another relatively easy show, but Sony and Amazon had other ideas. They wanted to help Ticketmaster out and take some heat off of Ticketmaster. and all those Swiftie fans. So Sony and Amazon made a big announcement yesterday that we are getting a live action Spider-Man TV universe.
Wow.
And it's going to be kicking off with a show called Silk Spider Society. And I know Matt's really happy because if you've ever stick around for our comic book portion of the show where we review comic books, Matt is a Spider-Man, Spider-Verse fan. He loves the different characters of the Spider-Verse in the comics, the different spider totems, if you will.
You mock the totems.
I do. I think this whole storyline about spider totems is ridiculous. If you haven't read, just for background, in Spider-Man comics, there was this larger idea opened up in the 2010s that Spider-Man is one of many spider totems, which are these beings with spider powers throughout the multiverse.
That's amazing.
And that there was this larger threat, this villain called Morlun, who was tracking them all down and trying to kill them. And Peter Parker defeated him, making him the Spiderest of Spider-Men. And one of the offshoots of this storyline was about a Korean-American girl named Cindy Moon, who was retconned into the origin of Spider-Man. She was a kid who was on the same field trip as Peter Parker and got bitten by the same spider after him. But because of this Spider-Verse threat, she was hidden away and trained with these other people. And she came out after this master villain was defeated and became this hero, Silk. So that's all to say. From the title of this show, it sounds like Amazon and Sony are partnering up to do, and they said this in the press release, they are making they called it a suite of TV series, but that's a batch of TV series, all based on Spider-Man universe characters. And it sounds like they are getting into this official kind of comic book version of the Spider-Verse with the mythology.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of interesting questions wrapped up in all
maybe
this.
That means we get Ezekiel.
Yeah, we might be getting Ezekiel. Yeah. We might be getting Marlon or some
one
equivalent.
Step away from Cardiac.
Oh, stop it.
Yes, Matt.
So this is all interesting. So first of all, behind the scenes is interesting because Sony is the only studio with no streaming platform of its own in the streaming wars. So we've all been kind of like wondering, well, if they're building a Spider-Man universe, like, how are they going to do that distribution-wise?
Yeah.
The answer is they're partnering with Amazon for this kind of unique deal where Amazon will kind of help distribute these Spider-Man TV series through MGM Plus, which is currently the kind of premium station, cable station, as Epix or digital add-on Epix.
Yeah. Okay.
So in 2023, Epix is going to rebrand because Epix is owned by MGM Studios, which got bought by Amazon in the last year. So in order to kind of solidify its brand, MGM and Amazon are relaunching Epix as MGM Plus because everything's just got to be
seriously
with a plus now, right? So we're getting MGM Plus next year. And what the plan is, and I had to kind of break this all down because it made my head hurt trying to figure it out while we were writing this up. But it sounds like the Spider-Man series will first air on Epix or MGM Plus as, TV shows. And then they will go to Prime Video for global streaming because they'll air in the US on MGM Plus and then those episodes will go to Prime Video for global distribution. So I don't know what the turnaround on time is. I don't know if they like air on MGM Plus first and then like the next day they're on Prime Video, or if it's a whole season. I don't know what their plan is. I know they're trying to use it to get people to the channel,
Right.
and then to streaming. So that's the plan. So this is a partnership. So Sony will be using Amazon to kind of distribute these shows. So the first one is, of course, like I said, Silk Spider Society. And they've already given us the premise, which is this is going to start after Cindy Moon comes out of this, time she's been away, locked away, training with other spider warriors under Ezekiel.
Hopefully they make some
Changes,
tweaks.
yes.
Yeah, because like
Makes sense.
the original origin, like you look now, like at how things proceeded and like why she was kept and all that. So it's not a good look.
Streamlined.
It's not a good look. Also, just like it hasn't aged well. So I do hope that they kind of take some of that and tweak it and modernize it a little bit. But I am very excited for the concept, the overall concept.
Yeah.
To come
I mean, I hope they do it and just make it simple. Like, hey, these people were hidden away and trained, because instead of it being trained and then like this weird thing where the threat's over and they were just hidden away for nothing. I hope they were hidden away in their training
for this
specific threat. Right.
That makes way more
sense.
And
and it's a build up we can then build up from.
Yeah, I agree.
The other interesting question in all this is how this fits with the movies, because getting this kind of sparked my brain and was like, they did very careful stuff with the language of it, but it is interesting that this is coming on, this is being produced and it will be produced on the heels of the current Madam Web movie. Which is already shooting. So Madam Web will be in the can and out before this comes. And that's interesting to me, because I feel like the two could be more tied together than we know, where
that's
Madam Web
pad.
is the one where we get this larger overarching threat of the spider and the mythology of the spider totems, the different realities, this person, this threat coming and killing off spider people, and having to ensure first that Terminator style that Peter Parker gets born in order to make sure he can grow up to become Spider-Man to battle this threat he's destined to face.
When you say that out loud, come on, that doesn't sound awesome.
No, that sounds awesome to me.
It does.
Yeah, and we know nothing for sure about Madam Web, except there's a bunch of awesome actresses and some pretty good actors.
I don't know what the hell to make of that movie yet.
Right?
Like, it's so...
Yeah, we know Emma Roberts is in it, Adam Scott's in it, we know Sydney Sweeney's in it, and some Isabella, I forget her last name, I don't want to butcher her last name, but a bunch of other actors who are up-and-comers are all in it, and we know rumors of who they're playing, right? That, Adam Scott will be Uncle Ben at a young age, Emma Roberts is his sister, May Parker, who's pregnant with Peter, Sydney Sweeney might be Julia Carpenter. We just know Dakota Johnson is Madam Web.
Yeah, that's the only thing we know.
That's the only thing we know. But I think they're tied together. I think Madam Web will set up the threat for this larger Sony universe, which is something Sony really needs, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we're going by Morbius tactics, it ain't looking good about trying to set up a larger universe, which Morbius...
I mean, here's the thing. Just, just put stuff that's in your trailer in the movie. It's not hard.
It's not.
Like, that's not hard. Like, it's just, man, you're gonna connect everything. Like, connect it. I was just like, psych. That's what Morbius did. I was like, psych.
Some people are asking in the comments. We don't know that they're connected for sure. Damon Streams is asking, one of our regular people. We don't know that they're connected. I'm just wondering if this is all part of like one universe, and I see where there could be easy connective tissue, right?
Yeah.
If Madam Web ends with them ensuring Peter's birth, but saying, okay, but the threat's still out there, and like we need more people to fight it, and then you start to get this larger idea of there are other people out there.
So I'm curious, because I know we've read like one or two Spider-Verse adjacent. Mm-hmm. We read like Edge of Spider-Verse. Like, Janelle, do you?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
How does this sound good? Yeah, how do you approach all this? Are you excited for this?
I'm very excited for different Spider-Man content, because I haven't, as you guys have known, the teen like drama stuff in live action lately, I've just not really been into. So I'm really excited about anything to just kind of like explore anything Spider-Man further for me and for any casual viewer. Like, I think it's so cool, because it sounds, I don't know, I don't feel like you would have to have read the comics to get into this.
Well, that's my question to you. Was going to be my question. Does this all sound like gobbledygook to you when we start saying like all of these?
Some of it, yes. Like truth be told, some of it, I'm like, okay, they're doing their thing, and I love you guys for that because I love watching you guys geek out. But it still is very alluring. Like it's exciting, and I don't know, just like you guys getting excited brings like excitement for me too. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good time to highlight. Yeah, Janelle is our control here. We comic books to do the show so we could always see what happens when you try to bring somebody who's not already deep into this, like into some of this nutsness. So
yeah,
about the cable effect. Does
Are
it
you
sound
saying
like
I
we are
go
just
off the rails?
all the time? You're you've already
That's
mentioned
agenda.
we're 15 minutes into the show, and you've already
Are you
mentioned
saying
Cardiac
that
once.
this gets me one step closer to a solo movie?
No.
Yes.
And he's not talking about the Solo movie, a Star Wars fans one. He's talking about the actual stupid Marvel character Solo,
Not stupid.
who is a generic mercenary who might as well be any other
He's
Solo.
totally
But yeah, so but I think Madam Web is something you can easily ground if you just say it's a Back to the Future, right? Like we got to make sure that photo of Peter Parker's family doesn't fade. There you go. People can understand that. So a good Back to the Future time travel thing is never hard to explain. But we'll see, but it's just very interesting that this is how they're going to do things and that we're getting an entire Spider-Man TV universe.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
hopefully this is the thing that actually does happen. So,
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last lingering thoughts about this before we move on?
Just excitement, man. I just love all the content. Like we're getting so much content and it's awesome. God, I know it's been a while, but like 2020 was so rough and like it's just nice. It's really good to see all of it.
Sony's trying to get that universe money however they can. Don't ask me how Tom Holland's Spider-Man fits into this. I don't know.
Oh, God.
Just does.
Just does. He's Nathan Drake. He also fits into all the Spider-Man stuff.
Spider-Man. Oh, people said Spider-Man Noir over on YouTube. Yes,
Yeah.
Blue Cat Jen, we'd be down with Spider-Man Noir in a heartbeat. Black and white, just that Werewolf by Night style, like hardcore a little bit. Yeah, I'd be down with that.
I want pulpy.
I want like I
want all the
and I want the Nick Cage voiceover still. Like, yeah. No matter who plays him, I still want a voiceover by Nick Cage. All right. So moving right along, let's get to our main event. Guys, it's time to look back, and it is time to rank MCU Phase 4. So we had a lot in this phase, what I call the PTSD saga of Marvel, where, Marvel had all the characters had to recover from a bunch of stuff in Endgame, and we all had to recover from real life, and Marvel Studios did too. And we all did it together, and it was sloppy and it was messy. There were some ugly parts. There were some really great parts and some really sad parts. But now it's time to look back and rank the greatest of them all in Phase 4. But before we do that, Janelle Wheeler, you went out and saw Black Panther. You hadn't seen last week. So let's give you a quick micro review. How did you feel?
Oh gosh. Okay. I will say that it is not on my list, but it is just because everything was so good. I still adored this film. It was extremely hard to watch for me personally. Like I was very emotionally charged the entire time. I was glad I went by myself because I truly was crying. Maybe even in places that most people wouldn't cry in, I still was. And I just think that it kind of brings it full circle, the entire journey. Obviously, I still don't want to spoil because I think it's really important that people get to go and see this. And if you haven't, you have to see this in the theater. It's just beautiful, extravagant. It's just awesome. And it takes your breath away in parts. So I just think there was a lot going on. So that's my only criticism. There was so much that it was almost it just felt like heightened emotion the whole time. But I loved it. Yes, I loved Namor or Namor. I don't know how we're supposed to say this. I'm still confused.
I'm totally saying Namor now because I just love how it sounds.
Namor more than Namor. Namor.
Like Spanish Edgar Allan Poe.
Fantastic.
Said
okay.
Namor.
I loved him. And yeah, I loved this movie. It was intense though, emotionally. That's all I can think of is how emotional I was watching it.
All right. That is Janelle Wheeler's micro review of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. In the comments, we are getting Damon Stream says an MCU namer is greater than comic book namer.
100%
I agree.
correct.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, come at us.
Not even close.
Yeah, it's not even close.
There are two characters that have like completely surpassed their comic counterparts. I will absolutely put Namor in there, and Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Those two actors have brought so much to those characters. They are light years better.
Looking at you, all those comic creators.
Just saying. I don't think I'm lying.
All right, you better talk to the actors. All right. Anyway, let's get to a more positive note. All right, so we're doing our MCU Phase 4 rankings. We are just, to keep this positive, we are only doing top 5s. So these are all winners. We're not going to get into the negatives and be like, oh, well, this project stunk, blah, 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 blah. For me right now, it's a little close up. But yeah, we don't need to do all that. So we're keeping it positive. So, all right, let's say thank you to Rich in the control room and Peter, who put together this graphic for us and all our excellent graphics that you see in the background. Let's kick it off. Here are Comic Book Nation's MCU Phase 4 Top 5 rankings. We made that so smooth. At number 5, and we're going to reveal these each place for all of us at once, and then we'll let everybody explain their pick. So let's go ahead and reveal the number 5 picks, please.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Oh, look at it.
Ooh, look at that fancy graphic. All right. So we have not seen these. We have no idea what we eat, like who picked what. So we are finding out in real time
they're
here.
all different.
And they're all different. All right. So at number 5, go around. My number 5 is She-Hulk for people listening. My number 5 is She-Hulk.
Wow.
Matt's number 5 is Loki. And Janelle's number 5 is Moon Knight. So for me, I picked She-Hulk as number 5. All my rankings were based on kind of categories of what was delivered and how important it was. And that's what kind of helped me separate projects out and maybe left some other projects off the list that I liked, but I didn't think were as significant as others for certain reasons. So She-Hulk is my number 5 because I feel like this show was the most fun Marvel TV show we've had, and the first one to really make me believe in the idea of MCU doing regular TV shows, not just like event series that launch new costumes and stuff or make a little tweak to a character storyline, but actually weekly TV viewing. It was the Marvel sitcom. It was fun week to week. It kept us talking and making theories and just enjoying jokes. And it also deftly moved so many pieces of the MCU around without being heavy-handed or crazy about it. And it's fourth wall breaking, meta, winking things, even making fun of Disney for cutting the budget, the Kevin Feige machine, all of that. It was just really good, fun writing and the most fun, I think, in the PTSD saga. This was the most fun project, and it was for me, and it was the most, and it was needed. So She-Hulk's my number 5. Matt, tell us why you picked Loki.
So I had to fight on this list because I actually had, if you go to the initial draft I had of this list, it was actually a lot different. But I had to catch like recency bias on me because I was like, man, it's been a minute since I've seen some of the earlier ones. And like, you don't think about it, but Phase 4 is actually there's been a lot in Phase 4. And I remember there was this feeling I had with Loki. I was glued to every week of those episodes. And it was just, they did so much for a character that I did not care about. It's kind of like Obi-Wan. When that show first announced, I was like, I'm good on Loki. I don't need another Loki spotlight. I'm good.
Rude.
I was that. Okay. So coming in to have a whole show about this dude and for me to care about him so much by the end. And then that last episode, I know it's divisive, but that finale just ruled, and the Jonathan Majors back and forth. I mean, that was just one big talkie that whole episode, and I ate that up with a spoon. You know, Sylvie, there was just so much to that show that I just enjoyed. So I had to catch myself and be like, I think if I'm honest, I think this has to be my number 5. So it was great. It's one I will go back and rewatch, and I am excited for the second season. I wanted there to be a second season. So that's a look for me.
Jay.
I'm so proud of you for like having it in your top 5. Because I didn't know if it was going to make the cut, Matt.
That's awesome that we swapped. Like we had those in our swapped top 5. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I chose Moon Knight. This is a character that I was not very familiar with at all. I think I read maybe one Moon Knight comic before. I always was intrigued by Moon Knight, but I didn't really feel like connected. So when they made the announcement, I was like, I don't know, maybe. And starting with episode 1, I was immediately hooked. I feel like they did such a good job of satisfying serious comic book fans that know this character, as well as people that are casual viewers and maybe had absolutely zero idea of what was going on. And obviously, the acting was brilliant. The action was so great. And I love the lore. And it's just a different side of the MCU that we finally got to get a taste of. So I thought they did a great job.
Excellent.
Well said, man.
Well said.
Yay.
All right. Let's go ahead and reveal our number 4 picks. And these should get faster in explanations as we start to cross other people's
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Okay. So my number 4 pick is Moon Knight. Matt's number 4 pick is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And Janelle's number 4 pick is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I will say my number 4 was Moon Knight because I felt in a phase that introduced so many new characters to us, Moon Knight was the best character story I've seen, the best character drama story at least I've seen. Like Janelle said, all the reasons she said, it made people care about Moon Knight on a gym level, which is nearly impossible. It was one of the best acting showcases outside of Elizabeth Olsen's WandaVision that I saw in the MCU from Oscar Isaac, who made you care about different versions of himself immensely and deeply. And just the mythology of the character and the way that they approached him and his unique mind and powers is unlike anything I've seen in superhero stories or really anything outside of like a weird Christopher Nolan movie. So I thought they did a spectacular job, even when some of the production stuff might have, not been the hottest. I thought Moon Knight was a great character study, and I enjoyed the finale for what it was. So my best character kind of piece was Moon Knight, and that's why it's my number 4.
Ah, yeah. So Wakanda Forever is number 4 on mine. We kind of talked about last week, as like a whole overall movie. And as Janelle said, there's a lot going on in this movie. And I feel like sometimes that gets in the way. Like, maybe there's a little too much going on. It's just the focus. There's just so much to love about the T'Challa aspect of this and the family and that. And obviously it's hard, even with my issues with like just the movie sometimes. You can't help but walk away with like just this sense of, I don't know. There's just something really, satisfying and heartbreaking and tragic and also hopeful about the way this movie puts itself together and what they did with what they had to work with and the timing and the stuff with, Namor. I just thought, wow, taking a character that I could really take or leave in the comics, because most times he's very one-dimensional to me. Nicole is somewhere cursing me out right now, but to me, he's always just kind of that. I just thought, wow, they brought some really just interesting dynamics to him and his role in the MCU going forward. So for those reasons, this one stuck out to me as my number 4.
And Jay, Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I know that a lot of people would maybe not even put this movie in their top 5. But I have to be that voice for the people, okay? Like, I love Doctor Strange. I love Wanda. The cameos were awesome. Like, come on. Everybody was really, really excited to see some of the people that popped up in this film. Although a lot of them died brutal deaths, it was still like really freaking cool to see that. I think that Wanda, we got to know her even more and kind of see her in a different light, which was great. I love Doctor Strange, so I will always put him. My only criticism with this is that obviously I didn't have as much of him. But I also really, really loved getting to see America Chavez. And I was like, wow, she's cool. And I'm getting to know her. And it felt great. I also felt like it further explained multiverse interactions and what's actually happening. So that's great for me. I loved this film. I thought it was really artistic and crazy cool. It was a little spooky. It was just a ton of characters smack dab in the middle of a movie, which, I always like, and I really enjoyed it.
As I was saying earlier, I think you have a misconception. If you read the comments, people thought it would be even higher on your list.
For mine, yes, I know. But you'll see. I have to give credit where credit is due. You'll see.
All right, let's go ahead and reveal our number 3 picks.
We need the sound effect. There we go. Hey, Kobe!
Okay.
Oh.
Our first match. So it looks like for pick number 3, me and Janelle both have Spider-Man No Way Home, while Matt picked Miss Marvel. So Janelle will double team this one. I'll say that I picked Spider-Man No Way Home because, yes, I know we've all had the discussion of looking back afterwards, criticizing the film that we saw and whether it worked as an actual movie. But the truth, like I said, is my list is built on looking over Phase 4, which had a lot more significance than just what happened in these stories. It was significant outside of the theater and outside of the TV screen because of where we were in the world at the time. And I said that because of that, I think Spider-Man was crucially important to getting people back together, to making us care about movies again, to giving us an event that brought literally generations of Marvel movie fans together and made us all happy and made us all cheer, even though the secrets got spoiled and all that. It was still great to see on the screen. And I think I was talking with one of our other show producers, John Mason, before this. I'm always going to wonder, my what if is going to be, what if we had not known any of that going into the theater? I'll always wonder how that would be. But as an event film, I think Spider-Man No Way Home was one of the most timely and important Marvel releases we've had. And just for that, what it did as an event alone makes me rank it at number 3 in my list. So, Janelle, what are your feelings about it?
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I took my dad to go see this for for his birthday. And it was just our first time back in the theater. It's kind of like a sentimental thing for me. And even though it's maybe not like my favorite hero or maybe not my favorite iteration of Spider-Man, you have to admit that seeing all of your favorite, every Spider-Man that maybe, you thought of together was epic. There's very few moments in the MCU that are straight up epic, are on the top of oh my God, I can't believe they did this and pulled it off. And seeing the 3 of them together was one of those moments that is just insane. So yeah.
Matt, go off about Miss Marvel. Go ahead.
I mean, I figured most people knew that this was going to be.
Yes.
It was like Janelle. It was a matter of it was going to be on the list. There are, like I said about Elizabeth Olsen, bringing such a warmth to this character. Iman Vellani just knocked this role of Kamala out of the park. And for me, what the show did was just kind of like what Kofi said about She-Hulk. It was like a perfect. It was just so lighthearted, and they did so much to just embody the family and this just kind of love and hope and that they embody. I just love what they did with the culture, and it was so authentic, and it was just so fun. I looked forward to this every week, and the only ever nitpicks I really had were when they kind of tried too hard to kind of connect to the MCU and here's a thing for later, and not including the last thing, the last kind of big reveal, which I thought actually that was really interesting. But just the other stuff kind of felt sometimes a little forced. But when the show just did what the show wanted to do and built these characters, it is one of the best things Marvel. I just love it so much, and I recommended it to so many people. So yeah, this always just brought a smile to my face, and I will continue to evangelize about this.
I had it as my number 6.
Yeah,
it was up there. All right, let's go to number 2 picks.
Yeah. I love the drumming.
Oh, another match.
Hey, yay us.
All right, so me and Janelle are still of sound and equal mind here. We both picked WandaVision
I
as
love that.
while Matt continues his positivity train. So it was an easy one to explain. I thought WandaVision was just a game changer for TV and for Marvel at the same time for separate reasons. We had never really seen a TV show like this, taking away all the superhero elements, just the mystery of what reality is this, what is going on with the weekly kind of decade sitcom tropes being brought in to it. It was unlike anything we ever saw. And I said Twitter ain't forever, folks, but internet writing is right now, at least until society is it. And you can go look, because I wrote, one of the first things I wrote was when they first announced this was like, this is going to be the show, I think, that is going to be the sleeper that people don't realize is going to be like the hotness of phase 4. Because when they started describing this, I was like, wait, what? Like, this sounds bugged out, and I think it could be really good. And it turned out to be really good. And I think you will hear most people speak pretty highly of WandaVision in their phase 4 rankings, Marvel TV show rankings, all of that. And it's with good reason. And I can boil it down to just 2 words if you really want to get down to it. And that is Elizabeth Olsen. And, the work she put into that character, like Matt said, I mean, just transformed Scarlet Witch for me and just made her much more. That second to last episode with Wanda going back through her memories with Agatha is one of the best, I think, Marvel chapters of anything, comic, movie, or TV I've ever seen, about just looking at a character and like what built them and what moments and making it all fantastical. So yeah, WandaVision and the theories and just, again, the event of bringing us all together for Marvel TV. We had no content at like the beginning of 2021. We had to do this show. We know we had no content. It was like, look under this hat. There's nothing here. But yeah, it was just bringing the fandom together, the weekly theories, Ralph Boner even, like it was great. So that's why I picked WandaVision. Janelle?
Yeah. Well, she's enchanting. Goodness. We got Agatha, who was like just awesome. The only thing that could have made it better was a Doctor Strange cameo, which we should have gotten, but we didn't. And this was the introduction to what they were going to bring to Disney Plus into like TV and Marvel TV. And I don't know, it set the bar so high. It was so unique and so special. If you ever watched any of the OG, black and white 50s sitcoms and all that, like you just fell in love with it immediately. I know it was very like, you were either someone who loved this style and what they were doing in the beginning, or you were like, what the heck, this is not comic books. I loved that because it was something different. Whenever I get something completely different, like She-Hulk was my honorable mention because it's just different. And whenever they do that, and they do it really well, and this set the tone for me. This is what got me so excited and like rared up and ready to go for TV MCU. Hell yeah.
All right, Matt, give us that Hawkeye love.
Man, I
love Hawkeye too.
There's a lot of crow like on this list of like shows I was not going in. And there was another one, man. I was just like, oh, Hawkeye. And for the it was awesome. Yeah, I was in for Kate Bishop. That was it. I made it clear.
You were very specific. Yeah.
And then, man, this show made me care about Clint, and it made that relationship between him and Kate. It's just so perfect. It's just their back and forth, their banter. Kate's Haley Steinfeld is just such a wonderful casting for that. She's ended up becoming Kate Bishop. The inclusion of Yelena Belova and Florence Pugh, I mean, that really, for me, is kind of what even set the show like to be in this group. Like it was just, I mean, the macaroni scene will forever live in infamy in MCU history. There's just so much fun here. And it's also still, I think, my favorite finale of a Marvel show. That finale is just everything I wanted from what that show set up. And then bringing in the Kingpin. I mean, there's so much this show does. And it's Christmas. It's set during like the perfect time of year. This is a show I will go back and watch. Like over the holidays, I will watch Hawkeye because it is a perfect Christmas thing now. And it's now going to have that forever. So I did not see this coming. I did not see it coming.
I mean, while you were talking, the comments were all saying this is the one show that people have been saying in the comments right now that they are rewatching in the most.
It's
So
a now MCU classic.
The Mad Agenda.
Christmas classic, man.
The Mad Agenda continues. All right. Rich, let's roll it. What are our number one picks? Let's finish out this thing. We've had relatively little bloodshed, and that's good. So let's finish this out with our number one picks for the MCU Phase 4. All different. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Kofi Outlaw, I picked Wakanda, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Matt picked Spider-Man No Way Home. And Janelle has picked Loki. Okay, let's go. All right. So I'll admit I don't know if this is recency bias that I'm suffering. But like I said, I picked all my picks on things I thought were very significant for not just Phase 4 of the MCU, but beyond the actual in-universe stuff. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think, is a powerful tribute movie to Chadwick Boseman. I think it is one of the trickiest things I've ever seen a major franchise try to pull off.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that they even did it halfway to 3/4 of the way well is a testament to how hard they worked at this. I think Ryan Coogler, Letitia Wright, Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, and even in his own kind of comedic relief way, Winston Duke put more onto the screen and into the performances of this film than we may ever see them do again. And Ryan Coogler, some of the shots in this are so amazing and just so well made. And I think that's what made it stand out for me beyond the tragedy, beyond the sentimentalism, was this was one of the most lovingly and painstakingly crafted MCU projects in a phase where, admittedly, fairly because of the pandemic and real world factors, some of the visual and effects weren't so spectacular at times. But Wakanda Forever looks beautiful. I love the stuff with Talokan and Namor and that mythology. I love what it's done with Vibranium and kicking open some exciting possibilities. Riri Williams, in terms of action and delivering, I didn't love the third act, but I did love the last, the one-on-one final battle. I loved, many of the major sequences, and the bridge sequence in the middle of this film is amazing. Denai Guerrera and just everybody did stuff, and it was just an amazing, amazing film. And I think in terms of just power, deeper resonance, deeper power, stuff beyond fantasy, and dealing with what Phase 4 really is all about and encapsulating the mess of the pandemic, the setbacks, the losses, and all of the grief and just mass of emotion we were all dealing with. I think this film will be a testament to that over time when we look back. And so I'm just trying to look ahead and think back. But again, could all be my delusional recency bias, so who knows? We'll see in time. But that's why I picked Wakanda Forever, and I'm going to stand on that. Matt, why did you pick Spider-Man No Way Home?
Because this was, I like the Tom Holland movies. I've enjoyed them for, kind of what they are, but I've never it's never just completely clicked for me. Far From Home was fine. It was good. Homecoming was good. I will rewatch them if they're on, but they just, I don't know. There was just something kind of missing. And this movie not only brought to me the kind of necessary weight and there was just something, there was something like substance that was just there in this movie for Tom Holland's Spider-Man and the growth he has and the things he has to overcome. It was it felt earned, he wasn't just the kind of happy-go-lucky version of Spider-Man and the one who didn't feel like he was always kind of getting outshined by these other MCU heroes. It felt like, even though this one he's with other Spider-Man, it still felt like his Spider-Man movie. It felt like he was now Spider-Man. So from this point forward, I'm excited to see his version of Spider-Man, what he does going forward. And then not only that, they brought so much just love and attention to the other franchises. And as someone who has defended The Amazing Spider-Man on the show numerous times, I love that movie. And that's still, to me, the most Spider-Man movie of when he's actually Spider-Man and in the costume. It's just tonally and stuff. I just love that movie. And Andrew Garfield got real justice here. He really had that arc completed the moment he catches MJ, all that stuff, just full circle. And then even the stuff between Otto and Tobey Maguire's Spidey, all that stuff It was just so wonderfully done. So this was a love letter to Spider-Man fans in the best way, not just throwing a bunch of fan service on the screen, but actually making it mean something. And I thought they did a spectacular job. Hey, Spectacular Spider-Man. I did that. I didn't do that, but I did it. So there you go.
I love that.
That was why you picked Loki.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been very spoiled in Phase 4 because a lot of my favorite peeps have gotten featured. So Loki, I liked Loki before Loki was cool. I was into like Winter Soldier before anyone really was like, oh my God, Winter Soldier. Anyways, I've always been really lucky. So when they made the announcement that Loki is getting his own show, when I thought he was gone forever, I lost my mind. I was just so excited. I did not have high expectations because I really had no idea what they were going to do with Loki. Like, how the heck are they going to bring him back? How are they going to make any of this make sense? I don't know. Like, these kooky MCU peeps, Kevin Feige, you know what? I'm just going to see what happens. I was so pleasantly surprised by this show. Number one, it pretty much opened up the multiverse. Like, this is how I have come to understand what is going on in this world. It also really hit hard on certain things. For example, the Infinity Stones, like seeing how kind of like worthless, like, oh, they're like nothing. This huge, the whole Phase 3 was like, oh my God, this Infinity Gauntlet. And now in this, we just kind of understand like, oh yeah, they're all over the place, like whatever. There were so many aha moments for me. And Sylvie kind of stole my heart. And Gator Loki, like there were just so many things that, like, when you really think about it, or if you go back and watch again, you're gonna be like, oh my God, right, I forgot how much I loved that. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. Like, that was such a moment. And I just felt like week after week we just kept getting really like mind-blowing things. Even like you said, Matt, earlier, in just like a dialogue heavy episode, it was still like one of the best. So yeah, to me, this opened up a whole new world of multiverse and all that fun stuff. And so that is why it is extremely important to me. Also, I'm obsessed with Loki.
Janelle loved Loki from the beginning. That is very true. I was
Thank you. I liked Loki before Loki was cool.
All right. So those are our top 5 MCU Phase 4 project rankings. We're going to go around real quick so we can cut a video for this, but and say just a real quick recap of our picks. Me, Kofi Outlaw, I picked as my number 1 is Black Panther Wakanda Forever for the power and just the quality of the movie. WandaVision was my number 2 because I thought it was a game-changing TV show and Elizabeth Olsen rocks. Spider-Man No Way Home was my number 3 because of Phase 4 and the big events they put forth. And, you know, after Endgame, we need big events in Marvel. That was the biggest event. And like Matt also said wonderfully, it was also a great Spider-Man story in a weird kind of way. Moon Knight was my favorite character introduction of the MCU with a powerful performance from Oscar Isaac. And She-Hulk was my number 5 because it was just the most fun Marvel sitcom weekly TV show experience that I had. So that was me. Matt, please run us down.
Yeah, number 1 was Spider-Man No Way Home because it really was, I feel like the best way to say it is a love letter to the Spider-Man movies and the franchise without making it feel like generic fan service. It really felt like all of the characters move forward. And when you leave a movie where people want to see new movies for all 3 Spider-Man, I think that's a win. Number 2 is Hawkeye. I was not excited for this coming in, and wow, did it just blow my mind and did so much for not only that character, but also just the general street kind of level of the MCU. Yelena Belova has become like one of my favorite characters. Between this and Black Widow, has become one of my favorite characters. Kate Bishop is so promising moving forward of the MCU, and a lot of that has to do with Hawkeye for me. Miss Marvel, again, the same way, this new wave of MCU characters coming in, but this one is my number 3. It probably, it could be higher at some point down the line, who knows? But for me, it just did so much for that character, got across why this character is beloved in the comics, did so much about bringing her family, the culture. It felt authentic, did such a wonderful job there. Wakanda Forever, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is my number 4. It did so much just for bringing this whole other side of the MCU in the fact that, 80% of the world is oceans, and bringing Namor in and making, to me, what stood out was making him not a villain, but making him an antagonist and making him layered. And I think that bodes well for the future. And what they absolutely did with the passing of Chadwick Boseman and that mantle moving forward, I thought was superbly well done. And then number 5 is Loki. Again, this really, someone mentioned it in the comics, this one did so much for the multiverse before, Multiverse of Madness really kind of opened things up even further. But taking a character that I was ready to say goodbye to and going, no, I want to see more of them, I think is the best way to end that. So that's my list.
And Janelle.
Yeah, here we go. All right. My number 1 is Loki because, as been previously said, it opened up the door for the multiverse and introduced this whole different side that we have not seen in MCU shows. It felt like a movie every week. My number 2 was WandaVision because Scarlet Witch is a vision. She's amazing. She's so enchanting in this. We see such a vulnerable and lovely side of her and get to explore this character that we only kind of got tastes of. My number 3 is Spider-Man No Way Home, specifically because they brought 3 different Spider-Men together. That is an epic moment, a moment that is going to go down in history in the MCU. My number 4, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because Doctor Strange is the best superhero in the MCU. I don't care what you say. I'm kidding. Multiverse of Madness definitely introduced a different side of Wanda, and that is really good to see as well, because clearly she's becoming like a front runner in the MCU, and they're really like honing in on her specifically. Also loved seeing America Chavez, and honestly just the big huge multiverse of it all. Number 5 is Moon Knight for me because this is a character that I wasn't very familiar with. I think casual viewers really got a sense of who he was and how awesome he is. And I think it also served comic book lovers and longtime fans of this character very well.
All right. Those are our MCU Phase 5, our MCU Phase 4 top 5 rankings. We'll put the graphic up on Twitter after this, and you guys can come at us and let us know what you thought about our picks and about your own list. We'd be happy to hear from you at Comic Book Nation or individually. So please hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you thought of our rankings. Okay, we are going to take a quick break and cut this off.
So fun.
Differently this now. This will probably be the end if you're watching us on Paramount Plus. If you want to see the full show at any time, please go to Comic Book Nation YouTube or download the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, and you can hear the full show, because I think we're cutting things down on Paramount Plus to make it a little smaller snippets of less of us going off the rails. But if you want to see all that, stick around for the after party when we come back for break, where we're going to be doing some quick now TV recap and comic recap and wrestling preview. So let's do that. Comic Book Nation, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture.
Does it?
Yeah, that just sounded like we were prostituting ourselves out. But we do it all for geek culture. We do not do it for geek culture. We are not paid for that. We're back. This is the after party. You can already tell the production values are going down. This is the after party, Comic Book Nation. And right now we're going to jump over to our MCU Phase for rankings to talking a little wrestling with our most regular guestesses of all. Connor Casey is back with us, and he and Matt have got to talk about a special event that is going down in wrestling this weekend. Fellas, please take it away.
Yeah. Kofi, before we do anything, can I just say the disrespect that you three showed to not have Werewolf by Night somewhere on that list?
I said in the comments, I forgot to rank it. I did because
I didn't. So
I had it at number 8.
Okay, so I had that as my number 5. And that is what I was talking about when I was like, I just saw that. Maybe that's sticking in my brain. And like, then it was Moon Knight at number 5. And then I was like honest with myself and went, okay, which of these? And then I put Loki in there because actually that's the one looking back. But Werewolf by Night was absolutely in the running. It's fantastic. So
okay, you are forgiven. The other two.
No,
I'm kidding.
No, but I love Werewolf.
It was okay. I didn't like it that much.
I loved it, but I think it was just it wasn't enough to outweigh some of the other stuff we got.
Yeah. I'll take an hour of something good over 8 hours of something that's meh. That's just me.
We're going to get you and Brandon Davis a week to sit in, and you guys can watch all the Marvel special presentations.
That's also true of most wrestling pay-per-views. I will take an hour.
Look at that segue, ladies and gentlemen.
AEW Full Gear is this Saturday. And so as most AEW shows are, they're going to probably compact. It's going to be loaded with a bunch of big matches, some very anticipated matchups. But Connor, there's a lot going on here because a lot going on in the AEW world. What can you tell us about what's happening here and what it needs to do to put AEW on a good path moving forward?
So I will say this. I will be the first to admit that AEW has kind of been in a funk for a good portion of 2020. A lot of that isn't their fault. The injury bug bit the absolute hell out of that roster, and it greatly affected a chunk of their pay-per-view plans. Now, some of that is their fault. The CM Punk debacle, the elite suspension, the backstage fight between Andrade and Sammy Guevara, however much of a fight that really was, what have you. It's held this kind of dark cloud over the company these past few months. And I hate to give this guy the credit for it, but MJF said it best when he said there's a black cloud of some BS that's been hanging over us, and it needs the right leadership to break it out of it. And I think that starts on Saturday, and it starts with stepping forward with a new chapter, and that involves MJF winning the AEW World Championship. I cannot think of anybody within AEW that has the kind of momentum that he does right now. And Jon Moxley, God love him, this man was due for a vacation about 2 months ago and has held everything together instead, but that man looks tired. He was tired in the go-home promo for this where he forgot what day it was on.
I know, but it's a great promo.
The man, he's great promo, but he's like, is it Sunday? He's like, dude, it's Saturday. He's like, Saturday, right. Let the man go off with Renee, have a lovely vacation, and let Max have his shot with the ball. We've hyped this kid up so much. I say he's a kid because he's like 25.
Yeah.
We've hyped this guy up so much since day one, essentially. And it's time to finally see if he can back it all up, because the big criticism people have had behind him is that the man wrestles maybe 6 matches a year on TV.
Yeah.
And it begs the question of, well, if this guy is the champion, can he wrestle on a consistent basis? And can he keep the crowd as drawn in as he does with his promos, great as they are? How do you feel about that one?
No, I agree with you. I think this is a necessary... I've never been like the biggest Moxley guy, but I have to give, and even as like Ambrose in WWE, like I've never been like, it's just like, his style and stuff just has never really resonated with me. However, I have to give
the James Dean hip swivel thing.
Yeah, it just doesn't do it. However, I have to give him immense credit because stepping in after just complete chaos broke out, and really just he has been that grounding presence. Your champion is going to be on TV. He's going to be defending the title. I actually wish he would wrestle less. Like, I was one of the ones happy that like he can't do a bunch of independent dates. I'm like, dude, you're fighting everywhere and like mangling yourself. Stop it. So like, I I got to give him immense credit. He's done an amazing job. But yes, it's time for MGF to take it. And you know, it's really time for like them to kind of close the book on this chapter. You know, even so much as like, I'm curious to see what happens with the Elite as well. Cause you know, they were part of all that chaos. So I do hope that once this event is over, we really can kind of move to a new page across the board. I'm ready for like a new breath of life in there.
I agree. And I think on top of Max winning, I think you need two other things to happen. One, you need the Elite to win back the trios titles. You've got them in there with Death Triangle. Any combination of those 6 guys has always been fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, our match of the year was a tag team match involving 4 of these men a year ago in a steel cage. So I have every bit of confidence that those 6 will put on a great match. And the Elite will basically be able to move on and say, okay, those last 3 months, forget about it. We're moving on. And last but not least, there's a lot of matches on this show. Try and get this in at about 3 hours. Find a way for this to at least not feel like a drag. If this does hit 3.5 hours, find a way to pace this show out to where the fans aren't drained by the time we get to the main event. Because that's been the big complaint of the last few pay-per-views. Now, people have made the arguments, spread it out into 2 nights, have some of the pay-per-view worthy matches on the Dynamite and the Rampage beforehand if you're going to have them all in the same location. But
Yeah.
Tony's sticking to his guns, unfortunately. He wants these 4 quarterly shows to be as big as they possibly can, and they mean that with as many matches as possible. So if it's paced out well and we're not all sitting there at the end of the night going, God, I'm tired, it could be the step in the right direction. And then what you have to do on TV after that fact is Max has to prove that he can back up everything he says. And you got to start pushing some of the guys that people are looking around on Twitter going, hey, where's Miro? Where's FTR? They got all these titles, but we barely see them on Dynamite. You want to talk about, hey, the Ring of Honor stuff is kind of crowded everything. It feels like we need to relieve the pressure from that. That clearly isn't getting fixed until next year. So for now, fix what is fixable.
Yeah.
And it starts Saturday.
I agree. And I also think, you know, I think too, the other thing I would add to I want kind of a clean slate moving forward. You know, we've talked about it before. I'm not a fan of these interim championships. I think they dilute even all the back and forth before with CM Punk and Moxley and all that. Just, man, it's so confusing. It leads to people who should feel like champions not feeling like champions because you have this asterisk. Mm-hmm. And with the Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm thing, Toni Storm has been carrying this ball, and she should be AEW Women's Champion. And for the fact that I know Rose is hurt, but like, you got to address it here. I need something moving in that, like, hey, either she returns, either you provide an update, or hey, we're going to just move forward. And then when she's ready and can do it, I have no problem with that. I want that match, but you have a built-in story. You don't have to to me, you're kind of hurting both. Mm-hmm. You're creating drama amongst the title scene that's not money-making drama to me. Because now Toni Storm's gone on interviews and you have Rosa chirping back from stuff, and that doesn't seem good. And then also Storm's title reign is getting hurt because people are like, well, it doesn't feel like a real title reign. It just sucks all around. So I really want there to be some clarity of that.
So forward. I get why Tony does it. He is trying to go for the real sports feel of it, where if you follow MMA, if in any event a champion can't defend his title, typically they'll crown an interim champion, and then it sets up the visual of 2 guys, both with belts, and the winner gets to hold both at the end. It worked with Punk and Moxley. It even kind of worked to a degree with the Sammy Guevara, Cody Rhodes thing. Cody got the send-off, Sammy got the both belts, and everything after the fact fell apart for Sammy, but that ladder match was fantastic. This one, I feel like Tony needs to set the precedent for. This can't just be a case-by-case basis. If your champion is going to be off television for at least 3 months, you got to move forward.
Yeah.
You can't have the interim moniker hanging over her the whole time. Here's what you can do. You can just have Tony be called the AEW Women's World Champion and have Rosa show up with the other belts and just say, hey, I still have this you never beat me, and then have that visual. At
What's
least
wrong
then you
with
didn't
that?
detract from Tony. He
Right.
wants it to. He wants it to. This is
I
one
know,
of the few
but
times where they want to go
drama-
with the sports presentation. But here's the problem, that the pitfall he's running into, and UFC fans know what I'm talking about. You'll wind up with like 5 interim champions at once,
Yes.
and everyone hates it.
Right.
So he's got to set something in stone where I get if a guy's only out for a month, you want to hold
Absolutely.
off and build something else. I feel like we're talking in circles because we're agreeing with the same thing. He's got to establish some hard and fast rule here of like, okay, we can keep this, but we can't have this indefinitely. Because I'm not waiting until February for Thunder to finally show back up.
You know, so yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So, all right. So that's anything else you want to add on about Full Gear here before we head up?
Couple things. Liam Crowley, our very own, will be live in attendance in Newark, New Jersey, covering the show. I got an interview with the Lucha Bros, Ray Phoenix and Pentel Zero Miedo. That'll be going up tomorrow, tying in with their new exclusive sneaker release. We have an interview with Jungle Boy that's gone up this week. And did I forget to mention? Follow us on TikTok at Comic Book Wrestling. If you do, good things will happen.
Very nice. Well, thank you, sir. And of course, you can check out all of our coverage on the event right here at comicbook.com. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Connor. Okay, well, I mean, we've used up a lot of time, so we're going to move really fast to these next parts. So really quick, TV recap that we promised you. Andor, episode 11. Show is still awesome. I've written about how awesome it is. I've written about how you should be watching it. You can watch this in blocks. There are 4 arcs to this show. I have seen it all now. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm going to say it. But I've seen it all now, and it's all good, bro. But you can watch this in blocks. We have an article up teaching you how to watch it, because it surprisingly is, even people who know about the show don't understand this. Andor is actually like 4 different stories in this one season, and you can watch each piece of them. But you should. This last episode was awesome. Still loving it. You guys still loving it?
Yeah, man. Andor's great. Janelle, what do you think?
I think this show has so much heart. Like, with what happens back home for him, because I'm not going to spoil it. It definitely hits.
My thing went out. Yeah, you're out battery. Yeah. Right.
Yay. Love a dead battery. You got to love it.
Now it's time to see everything you want to say about Matt. Go.
Yes. Matt's agenda. I'm just kidding. So it just had so much heart. I think it's really good. It's a nice departure from other Star Wars projects. And it actually kind of, because I like the show so much, it's making me care more about the comics, because we read a Star Wars comic this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, Andor's still awesome. You can fight us if you want, or you could jump in and join us, because it's all Titans this week. Matt, also another good episode of Titans. Still loving this season, and very much love seeing Jinx as part, like, fully embedded in the team.
She's amazing.
Yeah, there's a line that Corey says, like, how would we ever gone on without her, and all of that, which is spectacular. So that's good stuff.
I know, man. She's such a wonderful addition to this show, and I just can't. I'm very excited. Now, I have seen some of the other. I've seen the kind of first half of this kind of first chapter of episodes. So I'm very excited for people to see where things go from here.
Janelle, you loving Titans? We know you're an HBO Max fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's not like, I don't know. It's not hitting me as hard as some of the other seasons. I don't know if it's because this is my first time watching it week to week, because I did binge it prior to this season. But, it's okay. I look more forward to Andor every week. And
I'm not trying to make competition, but so do I. So that's okay.
Yeah.
But we'll out, and we'll be following along as Andor comes to its finale next week. There are 12 episodes, not 10. So the finale is coming up, and we'll be able to talk about that as a whole. And Titans is just still kind of getting through the early arc of its season. But let's move on to comics, because as Janelle said, there is a good tie-in here. We also read Star Wars comics this week.
Oh yeah, you want to take the Star Wars
we'll
one?
start that. We'll start there and knock that out. So we read this week Star Wars Hidden Empire, which is the beginning of the last part of the Kira trilogy that has been kind of retconned into Star Wars comics. Kira was the character from Solo, a Star Wars story. She was Han Solo's childhood love, who helped him pull the Kessel Run job. and she took over Crimson Dawn. And in the comics, they retconned it that between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, she resurfaced after Darth Maul's death, and with her version of Crimson Dawn with the mission to kill the Emperor and end the Sith threat to the universe. So we read first 2 parts of this, War of the Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign. This was the beginning of Hidden Empire, which is where Darth Sidious and Darth Vader finally realize that Kira has been messing with them and Crimson Dawn is out there and that she knows stuff that Darth Maul told her, which makes her a threat to Palpatine. And this first issue was straight up just Kira and the Emperor having a face-off. They're on 2 different ships, but they're having this kind of verbal face-off while the chess pieces are moving around them as Crimson Dawn is trying to escape, getting slaughtered by the Empire. The Empire is trying to kill it. And Kira has some master plan, or so she says, to kind of finish this all. I've loved this kind of crossover. I really liked War of the Bounty Hunters, but I think it's been diminishing returns, if I'm being absolutely honest. Yeah, because I'm worried now, and I loved this first. I thought Crimson Reign was just okay. I thought War of the Bounty Hunters was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
But I'm worried that this is just going to be an easy wrap-up chapter, which kills Kira off and ends Crimson Dawn, and then just says, okay, now we're at Return of the Jedi, and everything's cleaned up, and you don't have to ask us about Kira anymore. And I'm kind of worried about that because I've really loved her character, and I really hope there was some bigger things, and maybe we got Amelia Clark back and all that. But it just feels like this is going to be a wrap-up to kind of tie up loose ends of history and, like I said, kill her off, and just in the end, she'll have an epic. I do get
those vibes.
Yeah, she's going to have an epic story, but she's ultimately going to get killed off, and then it'll be like, well, that history's settled. No more you're a talk.
Yeah.
Solo's never coming back. But it was enjoyable first chapter, and seeing somebody stand up to the Emperor was cool.
That scene between them where she's like heard back and forth with Palpatine is fantastic. That is a great sequence. Janelle, what do you think?
There's a lot going on that if you don't have a bunch of context, you're going to be like, well, this is a lot to take in, but it's still exciting. And I still found myself like, okay, I have to know what's happening. Like what's coming next. Like, so I would say I was a little lost at times, but not to the detriment of me, like not finishing the book. Like I was like, I'll read this. Like, I still want to know what's going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I kind of agree with you. I really enjoyed this issue as an issue and like seeing this part of the kind of battle move forward. And it's nice to see Palpatine get, it's nice to see Sidious screwed over just a little bit. And it's nice to see them on their heels. However, I do get this impression. I hope that's not the case, but I do get the vibe that like, oh, okay, well, we're going to say goodbye to you at the end of this, and I'll be bummed because I don't know, it'll feel a little underwhelming at that point if that's where we go. Yeah. Moving on to Vampire Nation #1 from Marvel. Now, this spins out, if you've been keeping up with Jason Aaron's Avengers run, he's been planting some seeds and doing some story stuff over there with Blade, and Blade became the sheriff of the new Vampire Nation. So this is, though in a lot of ways, this isn't really a Blade book. It's a Blade book in like,
it's a Marvel special presentation.
Yeah, it really is. I thought it was really intriguing, and I really liked what this did. But Blade doesn't really actually factor in until about middle, or kind of even middle to towards the end of the book. But I just like all the world building. I thought seeing the political things and the council and how this city is run, and seeing how humans factor in, and assassination plots are in play. There's some really fun stuff in here. That I really actually recommend. I would recommend this to just about anybody. I'm bummed this is not the #1 of a new series.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a special until the end. And then it was like, oh, the end. And I was like, say what now? Because I saw the #1 and I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be the new Blade title. And I hadn't heard about it or done research. So when I got to the end, I was just like, wait, what? Because, it was interesting. And this was a great premise. Like, Blade as the sheriff of a vampire society is really interesting. And I loved kind of taking him out of his usual killer, like spouting and making him a detective story, which is what this was, just with vampires. And it was very interesting that way. So, I was kind of bummed it was just a one-off too.
And Brywood brought up a good point that this did happen. Like this revelation of Blade and doing all this was a long time coming. I mean, this was made for a while back in the Avengers book. So it is odd that it's just hitting now. Janelle, what did you think?
I love this. I love vampires. I am so just intrigued by the whole thing. I am all about it. I want to read all of it. It looked really great. Got another white-haired character to love in Dracula. And there was just a lot going on in a good way. And this is great. I mean, I would recommend anybody to read this. I feel like this would have been great to like release around Halloween.
Right.
But yeah.
Or, just 6 months ago. I don't know.
Right.
But also I agree with Kobe. I was bummed because I thought, oh, this is awesome. I didn't realize it was one shot either. And then, towards the end, when it starts wrapping up, I went, oh, okay. So this is pretty much like a one and done. And then I was at least hoping that like, oh, hey, in the recommendations, Marvel always does one like, here's where you can find this character next. And it's like All Out Avengers. And that book is really not focused on, it's very much like an action, whatever's happening in the moment style book. So it's not one of like that you're going to really see this side of him pursued. So I'm just like, well, where's that? And Bloodline is coming, that series, but that's going to focus on his daughter. Again, there's a lot. I was like, oh, missed opportunity.
There was, and to be honest, I was wondering if this was like part of a general media plan for what would have been like a Blade movie we knew was in production. And this would have been helping to kind of just boost the character's visibility again, as Marvel does. And they were just like, well, we got to do something with this. Like,
And there's just so much going on with the movie, even taking the movie out of it. They've done some really interesting things with Blade in the last couple of team books he's been in. Bloodline's coming. Just do it anyway. Like, it feels like it's a good time anyway to do it. And then maybe whenever the movie gets off the ground and can get its stuff together, you've set a nice foundation over the past year of like, oh, hey, we've been keeping up with that character. We've been pushing him a little bit. So yeah, I just hope we get more because this was cool. But that's comics.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. But before we go, my quick mentions are just to shout out to the horror genre right now, which has some fun things going on. Smile, the French avant-garde film that caught many's attention, is now out on home viewing. I'm just kidding. It's Smile, the horror movie.
I really thought it was a different thing.
The horror movie is out now on home viewing. Barbarian is getting crazy buzz. It just keeps building. People on the street are asking me, have I seen this movie, Barbarian? I was the first person to see it. I tried to tell you all, but nobody listened. But Barbarian is now out on home video and getting major buzz. See Barbarian before anybody says anything to you about it. And Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. I mean, if you're looking for that Tales of the Crypt vibe that's been missing from your life lately, I mean, Black Mirror is nice, but it's sci-fi. But for horror anthologies, Guillermo del Toro and a bunch of talented directors are killing it with that anthology series, so check that out. All right, that'll do it. This is Comic Book Nation. If you are just getting into the show, we stream on Paramount Plus regularly. But if you want the full show, you can always catch us on our YouTube page. Go there and subscribe, please. And go on to our Twitter page at Comic Book Nation for as long as Twitter lasts. And give us a follow right before the end. It should be fun. We have a lot of doomsday posts going up right now. So other than that, you can contact us for now on Twitter. You can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
And you can find me at Janelle Wheeler.
And who knows where we might be tomorrow. Mastodon, we don't know. But this is Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Bye, guys.